interviewing to see if his name should go down to the personnel committee. And so Mr. Santiago keeps saying that it's open until filled, but it means that if we don't find someone here in this meeting, or there's no consensus among the council for a particular position person, that we can continue accepting applications under the posting without having to send it back down to the council president for signature, reposting, new date, and so forth. It leaves us open. It leaves us. It closes that little gap that would allow us to cease doing anything to restart the process. So it just kind of continues it. But listen, this process is the council's process, and so like the president says, it's a democratic process, and so you can waive the rules at any moment that you want by a series of votes. And I'll probably be talking about some of that later on, but that's where we're at right now.
Okay, Ms. Levy. So, is there any further discussion? This is just to repeat the motion. This is a motion to allow a gentleman by the name of Luis Santiago to be considered this evening. That's what this vote is on. Motion has been made and properly seconded. Hearing no further, Mr. Abdu, I see your hand up. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. My apologies for the last minute question, but if I could, through you to Mr. Bonet. Mr. Bonet, did the personnel office have the opportunity to review Mr. Santiago's resume to the extent that it was run through the traps and determined whether it met the minimum requirements?
We did not. What we did confirm was whether he had submitted an application, because he wrote us an email asking us to confirm that we received his application. That was one day after. And then he asked us a series of questions about the process. And he did indicate in one of those emails that it was open until filled. And my answer to him is like, it wasn't up to me. This is the jurisdiction of the city council. But we also can confirm, because it was requested during the last personnel committee meeting, how many more additional applicants had applied. Well, maybe it was the council president, I can't remember. But I think as of the last personnel committee meeting, there was 2 additional applicants that applied. One was Mr. Santiago and someone else.
Thank you, Mr. Bonet. I have no further questions, Mr. LaPlante.
Thank you very much. Again, any further discussion? Is everybody clear on what this motion is? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy.
Before that, I have my hands up.
Councilor Dela Cruz, I'm just going to remind folks, please, I'm going to give ample time. Please be more timely, please. Ms. Dela Cruz.
Yes, thank you. My question is, are those 2 candidates online at this moment? Mr. Bonet.
Online as what?
Are they now?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
My question is, are they present at this interview?
I don't know. I don't see them present, but I don't know. I mean, they weren't told to be here, but this is an open meeting, so they can be here if they want to. But I don't see them. I'm looking at my computer screen, and I don't see anyone that either initials or telephone number that might represent those individuals. I wouldn't know. Yeah, let's put it that way.
It doesn't appear so, Ms. Dela Cruz.
Can we ask Johnny of the people that were admitted to our tonight's meeting?
Right now, Ms. Dela Cruz, I'm looking at who's in the waiting room and who's here. I am not seeing anybody.
Yes.
I'm not seeing anybody, but
yes. Yes, if I might.
Do you see somebody that I'm not seeing?
Hello. Hi.
Who's speaking? I'm sorry, Mr. Rodriguez.
Giovanni.
Mr. Rodriguez. Yes, sir.
Just wondering, a question to Mr. Bonet. I'm seeing here a document that is a confidential document. So it's some investigation that it was done to the candidates. So do we, I know that this has been done to the people that are finalist. And that was, I'm assuming that it was done after the interviews or before the interview, before it was presented to the city council. So do we have anything related to the same type of check, investigation, or perhaps check on the people that are recommending the candidate that we're talking about, on the last person that we're discussing at this moment, Mr. Santiago?
The question was for me, whether we had done anything with Mr. Santiago.
Yes.
No, we haven't done anything with Mr. Santiago.
Compared to the other three candidates, how far away is Mr. Santiago? So how many steps are we're probably going to be missing?
He's 2 steps away. He's in initial interview committee and then personnel committee.
So if the council desired to accept this person at this point without going through the regular process, is this going to put the integrity of the process in jeopardize?
That's a good question. I think it's something for the council to ask themselves.
What about legally? Do you have any repercussion or idea or previous experience?
It could be questioned by someone who may file a complaint, but I'm not sure who would be that, who would be that person or that organization that would inquire of our process. It could very well be a human rights committee who has authorization to access or investigate a complaint on behalf of someone. Not only but the 3 candidates before you, but the other 280 individuals that applied, that they may not have received the same benefit of jumping over 2 additional critical steps to reach to you. It could be the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination, which is the body of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that investigates those discriminations, whether it be by gender, race, or disability, or veteran status, or whatever. It could be, it could be the city attorney's office asking a series of questions based on a complaint, or it could very well be an attorney filing a lawsuit, whether in a district court or a federal court, on behalf of their client against the city of Lawrence. So it could be a number of agencies or organizations or offices.
So, and if the city council have decided to perhaps give the opportunity to others to apply, what's going to be the process to do that?
So of course,
not to apply, to be interviewed, because applying, okay, it's still applying today, right now.
Correct. So tomorrow, to be interviewed, they would still have to be applying, of course, and we would ensure we looked at their resume and reviewed their resume to see if they have at least some of the qualifications of the job description or an equivalent of education and experience as the job calls for. I believe that internal employees get courtesy interviews because of the work, the municipal government work that they do, and they have not only one that's before you today, but 3 other individuals from the city had applied from different departments. They get courtesy interviews. They're not before you because the interviewing committee did not select them to go before the personnel committee. And then it would be a series of questions that the initial interview committee asked, and based on those questions, they would show a hand of vote on who they believe should go down to the city personnel committee, and then the personnel committee would interview and take a vote whether to send it to the council or not.
Understood. Thank you for the advice and the update.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishes to speak before we call the motion? And does anybody want the motion to be repeated again for as a courtesy.
Can you please repeat it just as part of the process?
Sure. And this time I'm going to ask the clerk, Assistant Clerk Brunel, so a different voice can say it. Can you please repeat the motion?
So the motion as I have it is a Councilor Gonzalez made a motion, which was seconded by Councilor Selena Reyes, to add a fourth candidate to the consideration for this evening, and that fourth candidate would be Luis Santiago.
Very good. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Levy,
Present.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
I say yes.
Councilor Abdu,
No.
Councilor Payano, noted. Councilor Dela Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Present.
Councilor Estela Reyes, noted. And Councilor LaPlante.
Chair votes no, the motion fails for lack of a fifth. At this point, the chair is going to go back to the original question, which is, is there anybody that out of the list of that was provided by the Personnel Committee, are there any nominations of individuals?
To you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rodriguez.
There is a way that we can allow the three of them to be interviewed tonight.
We certainly can. Well, we could do this, and Mr. Rodriguez, if an individual counsel like yourself or somebody else wishes to make a nomination, wishes to nominate an individual, we can then have that nominee. And then we can go ahead and you could ask, or somebody else can ask the questions. The floor is going to be wide open to whatever the questions are.
I'm
that
gonna,
you want to ask.
I'll make a motion to discussion purpose to ask questions to the three interviewers. So that way we're fair.
So Mr. Rodriguez is looking to do is he's not looking to nominate. He just wants to be able to ask questions at this point. Is there a second to that?
Second.
There's a second to that. Any discussion on this process, the way that Mr. Rodriguez would like for it to go? Any questions on this? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Estela Reyes, noted. Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Dela Cruz,
Yes.
Councilor Payano, noted. Councilor Abdu,
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yes.
and Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor President LaPlante.
Chair votes in the affirmative. At this point, we are going to ask questions of the candidates. The floor is wide open to any city councilor that wishes to ask any question. We have three candidates that are available to us this evening. Could we, just so for the record, we just need, I think at this point, need to list the three candidates. There's Damaris Ruiz. Clerk, could you please just read the candidates in case I want to make sure I get it accurate, please.
Sorry. The three candidates we have are Damaris Ruiz, Erica Hernandez, and Ronald Azaz. I'm probably saying his name wrong, Azar.
That's okay.
Very good. So those are the candidates. Councilors, I see Councilor Dela Cruz's hand up. Councilor Dela Cruz, you have the floor.
Yes. Council President, can we ask one question and ask the three of them to answer the question, and then we go back to the beginning? Can we do that way?
Councilor, this is at this point, whatever it takes for us to get to the right decision is what we're going to do this evening. If that's what's going to be helpful for you, Councilor, or any councilor, we want to make sure we're as informed as possible. This is an important decision, and whatever it takes for us to get to that point will be in order. So Counselor De La Cruz, if you wish to ask the first question to all three, you may go right ahead.
Yes, and I hope the answer from the three of them, right? That's what you.
I would, only thing I would ask from the candidates is to be concise, answer the question fully and be as concise as possible, because this could be a very long evening if we just go on and on, but get your answers out. So Councilor De La Cruz, you have the floor with your question.
Okay, my first question. As you know, election day, machines get broken, and there are a lot of needs to communicate with Boston. How will you build that good relationship with Boston and the office of the election department?
Counselor, who are you asking the question first? You have to pick somebody.
You said they're going to go in alphabetical order?
I did not say that. It's however
No.
you want to go, Counselor.
Okay, then let's start from Damaris Ruiz, and then Mr. Asu, and then Erica.
Very good.
Hi. Yes, I would have great communication with the Secretary of State. I already have spoken with Michelle Tassinari, which is in charge of the elections office, and she is available to help us out in any way possible.
Thank you. Mr. Asu?
Well, I'm certainly going to have to create the relationship. In a new position, first step is in preparation for elections. I'm going to seek out help anywhere I can, and certainly in preparation. Our plan of attack will include what ifs and worst case scenarios. What are we going to do if things break down? Where do I turn to? Who can I count on? What's first, second, and third? But being able to reach out and say, I'm new in the position, I need some guidance. Can I have some advice? Can I have some policies and procedures and guidance to that effect? Number one priority.
Miss Erica?
I would definitely lean on my team, knowing that I will have teammates that will have certain level of experience, and utilize that also to support me. Know who my contacts are, whether it's the Secretary of State, with the election committee through the state. Just find out who my allies are. But most important, I think not just counting on them being able to fix the machine the day of the election, having also a backup plan in the case that we are not able to get turnaround response immediately. So what does that alternative plan look like? So a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C if necessary.
Thank you. You still have to continue with question 2?
You have the floor, Ms. De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. LaPlante. Are you willing to take the lower salary and get a 2% increment yearly? Are you willing to take the lower salary and get a 2% increment yearly?
Same order, Ms. De La Cruz, or a different order?
Same order, please.
Yes, I've already considered it, and I will.
That's absolutely acceptable to me as well.
I would definitely need to see the contingency of the contract of this work, and definitely take into consideration other aspects of that contract.
Thank you. My next question. Are you willing to sacrifice your family to move to the city of Lawrence?
Yes, I'm already applying, and I should be getting an offer soon for an apartment.
100%. I live in Methuen right now. It'll be a very short commute. I've warned all my friends and family that they'll be able to help out. It's a short commute.
I live in the North Common area. My family has resided here for over 20 years. City Hall is less than 5 minutes away. It's my backyard. So therefore, I am a resident of this community as we speak.
you. My last question is, are you ready to upgrade that office? As you know, the physical appearance of that office need a lot of support for the handicapped clients. Also the technology piece. When I go there or when I need a birth certificate, I don't need, sometimes I don't want to go to the office. I just want to do it online. Then are you willing to upgrade that office 100% as we need it? Mr. Morris?
Yes. We have already implemented that. We are on Citizen Serve. And as of today, actually, we had a training and customers can and order birth certificates, death certificates, marriages, dog licenses, business certificates, so on and so on, through Citizen Serve. And we are speaking in regards of upgrading and scanning documents so we can get rid of the cabinets and move forward.
Well, most certainly, I'd like to say I'm going to put my stamp on this office and make the improvements I see. But it should be no surprise, those improvements are going to be coming from my staff, from the counselor's suggestions. Those will be my first priorities. Where are we starting with improvements? And that'll be certainly part of my stamp.
Thank you.
I don't know what you have in front of you, but one of the things that I did put some thought into after our meeting on Monday the 8th was different ways that we can, obviously it's upgrading the physical aspect of that office wouldn't be an overnighter. It's something that you have to work on gradually. And there are things that we can do in a short-term period, from retraining personnel to be more intentional and accommodate those with different needs, from then finding funding to start creating adaptations for more accessible accessible aspects of the office, whether it's for those individuals that you were concerned about, Ms. De La Cruz, those that are wheelchair confined. What are things that we can do within a medium term? And then what can we do long term? We need to get that office up to date, get it up to the century, get it more tech friendly, make it more accessible, and just not to those that are wheelchair confined. I have also experience in dealing with those that are deaf impaired. So how can we just create an environment that is adaptable to all the community members of Lawrence, not just a specific group? So something I will definitely work on.
Thank you very much to the three of you, and I wish you luck.
Thank you so much, Mr. La Cruz.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. De La Cruz. Is there any other candidates that wish to ask questions at this time? Hearing none at this point.
Yes, I do. I just don't want to go second.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, you have the floor.
I was waiting.
It is to be number 2. You got it.
I was waiting to see somebody else jump in. Yes, to all the candidates, I wanted to get your perspective in terms of the importance of that office. How important do you think, based on your research, based on your experience, or based on your perspective, how important do you think that office, the office of the city clerk, is for the city of Lawrence, the resident of the city?
What's your Mr. Rodriguez? You have to.
They can have the initiative. I want to see that too.
It'd be helpful.
I can answer.
It would be helpful for them if you would give some direction.
Well, they can take that initiative.
Okay. There you
I can go first.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Ruiz.
Yes, very important for, I would think it's, I don't have to think, I can say that the city clerk's office is very important. It's basically the keeper of the records for the city. So we get a lot of information. We keep a lot of information, and we work closely with the city council. As you know, we prepare agendas, we work all the time together. So it is a very important office, and it's important for the community as well, getting their vital records, getting all the things that they need.
I'll go next. So the city clerk's office is vital to the community. It's the first place that community members would it's the first stop for any community member of Lawrence. It's crucial to not just the community members, but also all the other departments within City Hall. They are the folks that do all the work in the background, keep everything aligned and organized, and making sure that everything that we are providing is not just in the most organized process, but also in the most transparent way, not to the community and to government. So to Damari's point is, they are the record keepers, but they have to make sure the record is accurate. So that's the other important aspect of city clerk and why they're so important to the city. They are, and I don't want to elaborate because I'm sure that the other questions will come up, but, I have a deeper understanding of how important they are also to the elections of the city and what that represents. So I know the city clerk's office plays a huge vital role in the city of Lawrence, and it's a very important office.
Certainly the obvious record keeping, elections, but I like to refer to it simply as a bridge from the public whom we serve to the government itself. And many aspects of the government are technical and or there are processes to follow, and the common person is usually their first stop, and it allows them to translate their word into the process of government.
All right. My next question will be based on the operation of the city clerk office. How, based on your perspective and experience, how you are going to improve the operation of the city clerk office? What is your ideas, your experience, your perhaps your desire, if you have any, to actually make sure that that office operate in an optimum way for the benefit of the community?
I would like to go first, if you guys don't mind. I think it's one thing that I can bring that I have experience is dealing with records, dealing with very important records, keeping those records in ordinance, which is extremely important. The other thing that I have experience in is creating, turning paper systems into e-files. So I am tech savvy. I am able to digitize a lot of documents. I can process a lot of documents fast as well. I have the experience of working with high volumes of documents. And one key thing that I would work on is bringing this office up to date, starting to look at other ways that we can make this more accessible. It sounds like the office is already doing a great job getting some accessibility online, but how can we also find other adaptations so we can also serve other individuals that have other barriers, not technological barriers. We have a lot of folks in this community that don't have access to technology, but also don't have the ability to ask the right questions in order to find the things that they need in record. So creating also education around what is accessible at the clerk's office to the community members so they can find access to what they need.
I'll go second. I've been working for the city clerk's office for 10 years. I have an idea of what we need to improve this office. And mostly I would start with training. We have lost a lot of people who have retired or have left, and we're stuck. We need to train people, employees, to better understand the office. We have a lot of work. It's not an easy job. We have a lot of things that are going on. Now we're implementing new things that we need training on. So I think that before we can even start thinking about making the office better with new systems, digital, making digital changes, we need to train. We need to be able to work together. It's a very busy office. We get a lot of customers. We get customers every 5-10 minutes all day long. And sometimes we don't even have a chance to even train. So that would be my first thing. I would definitely train. Training is the key. And then we can work on implementing different structures.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll say I'm not going to necessarily recreate the wheel. I'm going to walk around to my staff, to my city councilors, find out issues that are lacking, areas of great importance. Obviously, certainly the staff training is vital because it breeds to a happier environment. An environment of understanding and appreciation. And as busy as things are, if you understand your process, then perhaps you can then handle things. But just the overall administrative function and management of the staff is something that it would be necessary so that changes come smoother.
Right. My next question will be based on your experience, research of the office, or your perspective of how the office should be, define or told me a one-day operation at the city clerk office. What do you imagine that happened there? I know this question is not quite as fair as I want to, because we have a internal candidate that is here present, but based on your research, how do you think or you expect a day working there, serving the community? And I would like Damaris to stay for last, because I mean she's the current candidate. She's a candidate, but also an internal candidate.
Okay, if I go first. Oh, shucks, because I was going to say what Damaris just said. But my first overall from a management process, as it's a very busy office, so there's going to be an immediate question of catering to the public, taking in processes, but then they stockpile. And can steps 2, 3, and 4 be accomplished? And are we setting aside the balance of addressing the public, taking in paperwork, processing, answering questions, and then you get back to your desk and you have the papers piling up? And the management of that process would be the first concern that I'd want to make sure is in balance.
All right.
My understanding is that, the clerk's office has a team. If it's understaffed, one of the first things that I would do in this current environment is assess capacity. I'm sure it's a very busy office. I'm used to dealing with very busy work. I can imagine it's a revolving door. But I have the ability and the experience of dealing with individuals in a wide range of requests. I do understand how to look at records, how to find records. I know how to process documents, not just high volume, but also accurately. It's something that is just part of what I do in all the in all the facets of my work experience. I've always had to deal with records and accuracy, and I can imagine it's a very busy office. And I can just say that I am not, how can I say? I'm ready for the challenge, basically.
All right, Mari. Mari?
Yes, sorry. Right now, definitely working on the training of the employees is very important. We are a team. We do work together, and it is important that everybody kind of knows how to do everything, because at the end of the day, if someone's out, someone's sick, we've had cases where there's two people out, there has to be able to do everything in the office. So whether type up a marriage, take care of a customer coming in, know how to look up, research a death certificate, and anything that can happen in a daily basis. We're all a team. If they don't know what to do, we figure it out. But the training is the most important, and I think we've been doing a good job, especially now that we haven't had a clerk. I've been acting, and I've had to have an assistant. I've been training her to do stuff that I previously learned myself. So we're working together, we're working as a team, and I think we're a great team, and we can move forward and make it better.
All right, so my next two questions will be in regard to, one more question in regard to the operations of the office. Currently, the city clerk office, to me, it's one of the top 3 departments in the city of Lawrence. You serve the community in a way that they need, and when they go to get a record, is because usually sometimes they need something else, perhaps a license and so far so on, or a passport because they need a birth certificate and many other things, important things that are vital to the community, especially in a community like Lawrence that it needs so much information. So currently, the operation of the city clerk office is during those 8 hours of work, that is 1 hour that is shut down from 12 to 1. If any city clerk take over, I would like to see a better system that actually going to maintain the service fluent throughout the day, and not necessarily having the office. The only office that close in the city hall, the city of Lawrence, perhaps, is the city clerk, and that's vital to maintaining the actual amount of work and the amount of people that go there to looking for service. So how you, as a clerk of the city of Lawrence, going to manage that and maintain the office open throughout the day?
Right now, I don't have the experience Ms. Cruz has in being internally inside the office, but what I do have the experience is in creating, strategizing. I currently work with the team that I lead. I have experience not just with the current team that I have in my current position, but I also do the operations for my father's business, remotely. And it's a balancing act, right? So how can I do my current job and also be able to service my father's business at the same time? It's one thing that I have is that I know how to balance time. And so I would work with my team in creating that capacity. Not everyone needs to go to lunch at the same time. We can strategize in ways that we can create schedules that meets the needs of the personnel, but also meets the needs of the community members that are going to cross through that door. I understand how vital and important it is for community members to have access to the records that they need. And so therefore, I would assure that that's something that we will prioritize, because it is important to be able to have not just only 7 hours available out of the day. When we have folks that work during the day, that have kids they have to deal with, what are, I'm willing to be flexible. And that's something that I definitely can work with. because I have the experience on how to create flexibility and capacity. So something that I would just have to look at the logistics of the whole team, overall operations of how things are operating as of now.
Well, thank you.
If I may, I have experience and background in auditing, and in that regard, I would address the circumstance. Is there a problem here? Why are we closing for 1 hour? Certainly, there are very important matters happening for that reason. That may be having something to do with the volume of processing involved. And it's not just the lunch break. It could be keeping up with all of the volume. In addition, I'm going to just off the cuff guess that the more information that we're able to work with online and access, that might assist the volume coming directly to the counter. So that may be a situation where that 1 hour could be a little slower, just to accommodate the other factors involved. But I do have a lifetime of experience identifying an issue, addressing all the interests that are involved, making sure all the interests are addressed and maintained, and then finding the best resolution.
I just wanted to point out, we did have that hour closing at the beginning when we first opened in July, and the former clerk was there. We were very short-handed, and that's the reason why we needed to do that. We are not doing that anymore. We are open all day, and we are everyone has taken their times to individually take their lunches, and there's always someone on the floor. So we are open all day, and we, like I said, we get appointments every 10 minutes. Some people come in every 5 minutes. Some people are outside the door waiting for customers to come out because we only allow 3 at a time. So going forward, that's how it's going to be.
My last two questions, I guess, I would like to ask. I mean, the city clerk is a vital position for the city council. It's under the city council. It's under the city council responsibility and perhaps supervision. And we do a lot of everything that we do. We are the legislative body of the city of Lawrence. With that said, we have a lot of ordinances that we do in a monthly basis, perhaps a lot. I would say every step that we have, it's an ordinance. So we need to be able to. We need somebody to be able to write up those ordinances for us, based on your experience, and based on your perspective. Do you have the ability to write ordinance in based on the municipal law that you're going to have to deal with? So that's another question.
Okay, I'll go, Mr. Rizzo. I don't have the experience to write ordinance. What I have the experience is to interpret ordinance. I'm not an attorney, but I am very familiar with municipal law, state law, and federal laws. My current job requires it. I'm the advocacy and policy coordinator. I've done a lot of work on the ground. I understand how it is to advocate. So I've done more of the work on the advocacy side. I supported the upstreaming RAFT being part of the physical budget. I've been to our state house, met with our legislators for different needs of the community. So my experience wouldn't be in writing the ordinance, but that's something that I can gain. I don't think it's something that that is a deal breaker, because I have the experience in writing notes, taking notes, and being able to interpret what the notes are. So I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Rodriguez.
That's fair.
Okay.
Well, I am an attorney, and I will say I've spent a lot of time reviewing, analyzing, and quite frankly, scrutinizing laws. And I can't tell you how many times, certainly I never said it, but other lawyers would say, oh, why did they use the word can? They should have used the word may. And we are always thinking that we should have been there to craft the law or the wording in that respect. I don't know how much leeway I'll have in changing any of the specific wording, but I do have experience in reviewing laws of all levels, but certainly no, I haven't drafted any ordinances myself.
It's my understanding that the city attorneys does the language for ordinances. So I would definitely get help from the city attorneys and we can work together. And it's a learning process. I've only been acting for less than 2 months. So it would be definitely something that I would have to learn, but I'm confident that I can do it.
My last question, my last question, I already took over the whole thing, but I mean, I didn't want to. It's a matter of the city council have several rules. Is any of you guys familiar with the city council rules? And also the Robert Rules of Order. That's I want to see if you guys are familiar with that. And within my last question will be about voting. I want to know your voting records. And I want to know how much experience you have in terms of organizing an election. So it's 3 questions within one, and that's my last.
I'll say I don't really have a lot of experience in voting or organizing elections. I remember in law school, a lot of my colleagues were excited about politics in particular, and we'd always say, well, oh, the lawyers, we interpret and apply them, and the case law puts it in play and really solidifies the wording of the laws. But I have some experience with Robert's Rules of Order, but simply in student government efforts and meeting rules and things to that effect. But I would be learning. I do have a background as a sole practitioner attorney, a general practice firm. I am constantly learning with each new case. I do pride myself on the ability to get up to speed, ask specific right questions, understand the processes. I have a lot of experience drafting procedures and policies, something where you really have to understand things so that you can set them down on paper so that they can be repeated on a consistent basis. But I would definitely have learning to do in all the different roles, and I'd be certainly needing some time to get caught up to speed. I can only offer that as an auditor and a general practice attorney. I have a good ability to learn things and get caught up to speed.
So your voting record?
Well, I haven't lived in Lawrence myself.
No. In general, do you like to vote?
Absolutely, I'm a strong supporter, and I, as an attorney, I feel like I am a protector of the rules of government, and I can't say how many times we say, well, let's listen carefully to the intent of the law itself. And then we never forget the fact that the laws are driven by the public, who guide our leaders and vote for our leaders and send their messages with their votes.
So do you always vote? Yes or no?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
I am a voter. I voted in, in the last two elections, our national elections and our local elections, so the smaller. Um, I My experience is more in the mobilizing side. I do have an understanding of the standards of governments, and the importance of making sure that our elections are free and fair, and that we gain the trust of our voters by ensuring that we're always, holding our elections to the highest standards. That is something that I can assure that I build that within the community, more trust in voting, getting folks more educated around what the voting process is. I think that there's a great need in this community. A lot of great work was done by advocates in this community and getting more folks out to vote. And that is something that I want to definitely expand on, because there are a lot of segments of this community that are not going out to the polls, and we haven't tapped into them. Maybe one thing that I do think that is vital is surveying what is it that we need in order to create that trust. And I just want to assure you guys that I'm willing to mobilize the community and get those numbers up there, because we have a lot of folks in this community that can be voting, that could be making a difference. But I also want to ensure that every campaign that is run through the city clerk's office is transparent and is always considered to be at the highest standards. So that is what I have to say in regards to that.
I am a voter, and I'm both local and government. I am very familiar with the rules for the city council. I haven't really tapped into the Robert Rules of Order, but that's something that I'm willing to look into. And it's like I said, it's a learning process.
All right, no more questions. I already took.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
The whole thing.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Is there any other members of the city council who wish to ask questions at this time?
Yes, Mr. President.
I see Mr. Abdu's hand, and I see Councilor Levy as well. Mr. Abdu, I saw your hand first. Did you want to go first, or you want to let Ms. Levy go first?
I'll defer to my colleague from the at-large city council.
Councilor Levy, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you both. What is your favorite part about working as a city clerk for the city of Lawrence?
Any of us? Well,
anyone.
I will just stop right there. If you don't mind, Mr. Rodriguez had a very good strategy, but if you want to continue with that strategy of letting whoever speaks, but it may be easier for the candidates to know who to speak first so that'd be helpful to kind of streamline things, but I can understand if you don't.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the question and I'm gonna continue on the same way. So I'm gonna start with you, Erica, then with you, Mr. Asu, and then with Damari. Okay? So
Ms. Levy, do you mind repeating your question? Just at
yes.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part about working as a city clerk? Or what will be your favorite part as working as a city clerk for the city of Lawrence?
For me, what's really calling at me is the opportunity to work more directly with the community at large. Being that connector. I love connecting people. I love making sure that the citizens of this community understand how the municipality works and giving them the services that they need. It really excites me that this is an opportunity to educate people, empower people. I love the fact that you guys work with public records. I know that in the community, there's not enough education about what is public records. It's something that I've always been interested in because I was able to witness how public records could be misused, So one of the first things that I want to do is empower and educate the community in understanding what are the functions of the city clerk. So when they do walk in through that door, they have a better understanding of how we can better serve them. The other thing that excites me about it is that I would be the record keeper of the history of this community. And for me, that just thrills me. The idea that I get to write down what is taking place today and how that's going to lead us tomorrow. So it's more the opportunity to make a difference in the community and the opportunity to serve the members of this community at a wider scale.
Not to be repetitive, but I really like the people, working with the public, working with the staff. I have an experience, not just as an attorney, but what I call a counselor at law. I really enjoy taking something that's seemingly difficult or confusing or intimidating and making it very accessible to even the common person. And I know we're not going to be conducting a civics class to each person who comes to the counter, but I just find it interesting. What's your story? Why do you need the certificate? I just recently got a Justice of the Peace designation for a day to conduct a marriage between two close friends of mine. And just learning the process in the court and just telling them the story, they were like, wow, that's such wonderful news. So the simple aspects of it, but I do realize, well, there's this very serious effort of the record keeping and the process of government. But I do have an experience, an enjoyment of taking that seriousness and making a bridge of simplicity and communication and understanding, and then just the wonderful knowledge and teachings of dealing with the public.
For me, definitely a big opportunity. If you would have told me a year ago that I would be here in this position right now, I would say you were crazy. I never in my life would have thought that I would even consider being a city clerk, but here we are. And I feel that with my experience and with, almost 20 years working for the city, I'm willing to work 20 years more. I'm here for the long haul. A lot of people know me. A lot of people know my reputation. They know that I'm a hard worker. They know that I'm willing to do a lot of work. And also I would be very proud to be the first Hispanic lady to be a city clerk in the city of Lawrence.
My second question will be, what do you see as the most challenging aspect of this position? With you, Erica.
I think the most challenging aspect of this position is that if we don't come up with an answer, maybe by this meeting, whoever, whether it's me or whether it's another candidate, when they do go into this position, I know the clock is ticking and we have elections right around the corner. So getting ready for elections, if this is not considered sooner than later, might represent a challenge. And this is only based on what I heard from the last interview process that we had. So I'm taking that into consideration. But there isn't a challenge, those that know me in the community, that I'm not willing to face. I feel like every day is a challenge. And one of the things that I'm really good at is finding ways of getting over the humps. I'm not afraid of challenges, but I just do want to highlight that might be the one big challenge of this position if we continue delaying this process.
First of all, I see the fact that there is a very busy office there, and there are very clear needs, long-term / medium-term improvements and changes that are already on people's minds and long-term and ongoing lists. But all the while, the door needs to be open. A counselor noticed the hour missing when they were understaffed. So that's going to be a very natural balance and challenge and concern. And I'm sure not everyone will completely agree on the amount of balance or percentages that we apply to each. So trying to make sure I keep everyone happy, which I'm sure our council members are aware. It's a daunting task, and you don't always make everyone smile. I recall judges saying, my duty is to make sure that everyone is equally unhappy.
I think the biggest challenge would be for any of us just to learn the job. I've only been acting for about a month, and it's a learning process. And I think it's going to be a learning process for anyone, myself or one of my colleagues here, to learn. So it's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to be a big challenge, but I think that we can work hard and meet any challenge that we face.
Is there something either in your resume or in your background that made you like the good fits for this position?
So in my background and education, I have, in my current position, I'm working with the public directly of Lawrence. I have 6 years of experience, but I've been involved with the community ever since I was in high school. So my experience goes all the way back to when I was part of the Lawrence High class trying to get the accreditation back after the school had lost its accreditation for over 20 years at that point. So I was part of that class that fought for that accreditation. So my experience goes way back since I was in high school in finding ways of improving this community, in finding ways to bridge in those gaps of needs that we have within this community. I have a clear understanding of what are the needs of this community. I'm always assessing and looking at the trends, looking at the systematical barriers that we have in this community. I have the experience of dealing with homeowners who are on the verge of foreclosure, dealing with homeowners that are being scammed, dealing with tenants that are going through housing insecurity, dealing with folks that are dealing with a lot of debt, dealing with folks in this community that are going through health crisis. I have the experience of not just what has taken place in the last 6 years of me working frontline for this community, but also responding under this pandemic, under the pressure of the need of those individuals of this community, trying to assess resources. I have the experience of building teams in my current position, but prior to that, I've also had my own business. I do consulting. I also work for my father. He has a welding company out of state. I manage the books for him. I have other businesses within this community that I work with, from the bodegueros, from the guys who have stores in this community. What do they need to do in order to get loans? I work with other entrepreneurs that have tried to get their books balanced in order to get loans, permits, folks that have food trucks in this community. So I have an understanding of not just the homeowner or the renter or those that are in financial crisis, but those that are also trying to excel within this community. So my background is pretty diverse. And one of the, and I also know how to deal with, another thing that I have as an experience, as a crisis counselor, I'm also a member of, I'm also part of the advisory board for the Department of Mental Health. So I understand what we need in this community, what representation we have in this community for those individuals. The list can go on, but I can assure you that I have a wide range of experience. I'm not just dealing with, folks that are in housing crisis or in financial crisis, just a wide range of experience overall.
Well, I'd like to simplify it with, I have empathy. And it's not just something, it came first from my mother, and putting myself in other people's shoes. but I can't say enough how it applies in every aspect of my personal and professional career. In speaking to a judge or a counselor or other attorneys or someone who's frightened to death because their disability has been denied and they haven't worked for weeks. I have the ability to understand where they're coming from, understand their motivations. I think that helps in managing people and keeping things steady and calm and organized in when there is high volume and a lot of interests and a lot of ideas and a lot of things on the list. But it may sound simple, but in the thousands of people I've represented, or I was counsel in a pro se situation, they had no lawyer and I was there to explain things. The closings I've done, family law, being staff attorney for a nonprofit assisting people who legitimately didn't have the funds for property, and explaining to them that while you can receive social services as an attorney, I can assist you and give you time and assist you in the housing court and explain to the judge and utilize the rules and rights. So it might sound simple, but empathy and understanding, an ability to listen and hear, and basically put myself in other people's shoes.
Well, my resume speaks for itself. I have experience in that office, being working there for 10 years. I can pretty much say that I can run the office all by myself, other than, the stuff that I'm learning for the city clerk. Numerous times I've worked on my own for like a whole week, and I've managed to take care of the counter, answer the phones, and do my work. So I think that experience that I have definitely would be the best for the city clerk.
I'm almost done. Still have 2 more questions. How do you see this position, and how do you measure this?
Ms. Levy, that first part of your question just cut off on my computer. Do you
How does you see?
succeed?
Yes.
How to
How does you see this position, and how do you measure it?
Okay. So we would have to assess currently, in this position, assessments need to be made. And we will be measuring success based on, it really depends. I think in this position, there is a lot of potential success that could take place. From the customer service we are offering to the community, from getting records out in a timely format, from making things from the front desk experience to the online services more accessible to community members, from increasing the amount of voters coming out to vote on election day, and creating processes that are more clear and transparent and filled and in trust of the community, and just creating processes that are accurate and transparent and accessible. So I think all those within itself are measurements of success, and just building on that throughout the years that I will be serving as the city clerk.
Well, I think the circumstances are such is that the city clerk's office is running. It's always running, it's continuing on. So if I'm going to step into this new position, I don't want to halt it and make changes so that I'm interfering. So it's a very well-oiled machine that has some great new ideas or suggestions that need implementation with some subtlety and respect for many of those involved, from the workers to the community to the hopes and intents of each of the counselors. So it may be, the idea is to join in something that's very successful and put a little more shine to it, or listen carefully to some of the already existing issues that need more attention.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, how do you think that this position can be success? And how will you measure it?
I mean, the success would have to be learning the position more, working with, obviously working with the city council to better understand each meeting. I understand that sometimes there's a lack of knowing what's going on, and I've been experiencing that as I learn how to do the roll call, as I get feedback from Eileen, and I know there's work to do, and I know that we can work more to have more of a communication. That way nothing falls back.
Do you know with whom are you going to be working more closely? And also, I know that sometimes there are difficult people. How you will be dealing with those kind of things, you know, if something happened, or have you been in some way, you've been in something that, you know, you have to be dealing with a kind of people that brought you some problems, and how you solve this?
I personally have experience of working with all sorts of individuals. You know, some of those individuals that might have the difficulties that they could be representing is due to mental health. It could be due to substance abuse. It could just be because they have a misunderstanding or unclarity. It doesn't matter. I think at the end of the day, you have to have good communication skills, active communication skills, assess the need of the individual, and do the best that you can to meet their needs. You're going to deal with all sorts of people. Part of what's going to help you create that successful communication is coming from a place of empathy and understanding, because it could have just been that person's having a bad day, right? But also having certain expectations up front. As soon as you see behaviors that are out of the norm, you know, addressing them in the most polite fashion. Having a personnel that is equipped to deal with all sorts of individuals. Have cultural sensitivity trainings in place in order to have a better approach when we do come across different individuals with certain difficulties and barriers. So I have lots of experience of working with individuals. I have experience in the healthcare field. I have experience in the frontline field. And it's not something that I'm afraid of. I'm up for the challenge. I do this all the time. I also know that I will be working with the city council and understand what that entails. I have a understanding of the importance that the city clerk represents to the city council. I also understand I will be working with other areas of government and the importance that it is for me to work in alignment with other departments in our municipality. So my understanding is that I will be working with a wide range of individuals, from customers, vendors, you know, the committee, the council. So I'm up to the challenge. It's not different to what I do already. I already manage a lot of levels of relationships, and the number one relationship that I manage is those with those community members of the city of Lawrence.
Well, I'd like to say, as an attorney, I'm not just a trial lawyer and I walk into court and I conduct litigation. I'm a problem solver. And I'm loath to call myself a psychologist in any fashion, but I cannot emphasize enough how all problems are associated with emotions. and either overreactions or underreactions and emotions. And it's what I've dealt with for every moment of my career. I'm almost ashamed to admit I have my first job as an attorney. I worked in collections, collecting money for credit cards. And I would like to pride myself on the fact that I was very fair and communicative, and people would come in tears and fearful, and I would explain some very basic aspects of law. The simple notion that if you don't have the financial capacity, then you will not be in any legal difficulty. And I can't emphasize enough how every single time I would appear in court and I would represent everything bad to these individuals, every difficulty that they were experiencing. And I would pride myself on winning their trust. It's very simple. I would advise people, why are you making payments that you can't afford? You should get on a payment plan. You should investigate bankruptcy. People are frightened of bankruptcy. I can't say how many people I guided to the simplicity of protecting themselves. I feel it's very significant to understand where they're coming from. And I can't say enough, the angrier or more irate or more frightened the person is, the bigger your ear must be, letting them know, making sure they understand that you have heard them. Sometimes it's as simple as showing them the littlest bit of respect. So I'm at my best in a situation where someone has broken down. They're not in their normal fashion. They're frustrated. They're angry. 9 times out of 10, I agree with them. I can empathize with it. Let's get it resolved. Yelling isn't going to help. I saw that significantly in court. Thank you.
I agree with what Ron said. I have experience with customer service, especially at the city clerk's office, and the way I've learned it is you just have to listen. Sometimes people are just frustrated because they're going through a difficult situation, and sometimes we can't help them that same day, or we can't help them at all because it has nothing to do with us. And basically, I just stand there and I listen to them. I let them speak, and I try to help them as much as I can. And if I can't, then I say, I'm sorry, I can't help you with this, but maybe you can get help from this place or that place, or I can give you a phone number, or as easy as I can call the next town over to see if they have that record, or they can find what you're looking for. But basically just having patience and letting them speak, and most of the time they leave happy.
Thank you. No more questions. Good luck.
Mr. Abdu?
Thank you.
After a year and a week, you think I would get used to the mute buttons. Thank you and good evening to my colleagues and to the candidates this evening. An overview of the city clerk, the critical roles of the city clerk's office. Some of them have been discussed this evening, but they are the chief of records, critical records, birth certificates, marriage certificates, and the like. Also, the city clerk is the public records officer required for maintaining the critical public records and also responding to the media on public records requests or any citizen that requests public records. It's also the clerk of the council. We all know this. And you have to manage 9 individuals and various aspects of the city council's responsibilities. And you're the chief elections officer for tens of thousands of citizens. So, and these are some of the main roles, not all of them. So it is a complex job. It's a complicated job. I think sometimes we here might not appreciate it enough because the city clerk is omnipresent, always here. And there's a lot to do. So the optimal candidate will be citizen-focused, highly organized, self-motivated, a leader and hiring manager of people, and responsible for quite a bit of city functionality. And it's truly the primary customer or citizen facing part of the city. So to get to my question, I'm going to throw my first one out, and there'll be two others. And the first question was going to be regarding, tell us about your experience with customer experience or citizen experience. But I think you've all done that tonight, and I thank you for that. So the two remaining questions, and I'm going to populate it in the chat in a moment, so you'll have them to look at while you answer. Share with us your professional experience that we have here on the resume, but to hear it from you, share us with your professional experience in an example of, first, your organizational management skills and changing process improvement, organizing things and making them better. And then the second and final question is your leadership and management skills. Tell us about leading and managing, and if you would touch on any experience you may have managing a budget. The city clerk manages several budgets to include elections and the administrative aspect of his office, or was his office. Now it's her office for the time being. So with that, I would ask
Mr. Abdu, do you have a preference of order?
I do. I would ask that, and I did it in a random fashion, but if it would, Erica, if you could lead us off, and then Damaris, and then I did intentionally leave the gentleman for last out of chivalry. So Erica, if you could lead us off, then Damaris, and then Mr. Azu, if you could bring up the rear, please. And again, the questions are in the chat.
So one of the most recent experience I have in my organizational skills is in my current position. When I started the program that I'm leading, that I coordinate, it was a pilot. There was no game book for how we were going to address upstreaming cases in front of the, I don't know if you guys know, but Massachusetts has, Massachusetts eviction rates are high. Lawrence has one of the highest numbers statewide of evictions. Part of what I did in my program was that we were trying to upstream cases prior to them going into the housing court by alleviating tenants and homeowners by providing financial assistance, mediation, prior to all that taking place. When I was granted the opportunity to run this program, there was no guidance on which way I was gonna find the results that I needed for those seeking assistance. Now I can tell you I'm in the final stages of finalizing the standard operation procedure manual for this program. I have a team that I'm also leading under this program. Right now there's a lot of cross training in my department, and a lot of the needs has been allocated to my specific program. My experience is also, I have to be extremely organized and diligent with the type of information that I manage, because it has to be accurate, it has to be clear. I am constantly creating procedures to support this program, and that is something that I'm currently working on. But I also have experience from other projects that I managed in the past. In my leadership experience, my leadership experience comes from different walks of life, whether is mobilizing for a good cause, if it's sitting in front of our legislators and advocating for systems change in order to better serve the community, whether it is just being a leader to my peers or to those in my personal circle of friends. So I'm a leader all across the board. In regards to budgeting, I did express earlier, I managed the books for my father's company. I have experience in Not only that, I help other small business owners just to create a process. A lot of folks in this community that are entrepreneurs don't have something as simple as a profit and loss statement. So creating some sort of process for when they do go out to a bank and try to get some sort of financial assistance is what I help a lot of folks with, how to strategically create opportunities for loans in the future. So I have a lot of experience in regards to that. And also within, going back to my current position, we do have to also, I have to oversee and manage the funding that's coming in order to make sure that it's being allocated appropriately to those folks that we are considering for certain buckets of funding. So very, very busy person in regards to that aspect, because it's something that I currently do, and I've been, so managing budgets, it's something that I'm really good at.
Thank you, Eric. Damaris, please.
Yes. My organizational skills, well, the city clerk's office is, you have to do a lot of multitasking. And throughout the years, I've learned that I have to be organized. So I always have, my organization is, you know, basically like I have things that I have to do. If it's something that has to be done as a priority, I have it in front of me. I know what I have to do next, and whatever I can leave for the next day, then I would do that. So I consider myself a very organized person in that aspect. Leadership, I am taking care of 2 offices right now. So I am managing both the elections office and I'm managing the city clerk's office. And I feel that to be a good leader, you need to have good communication with your employees and have a good team, and, you know, listen to their needs, if their concerns, and if they have any input on what we can do different. There's always a chance for an opinion and a chance that we can, you know, we can do this different, we could do that different in order to make the office better. Also, with budgeting, I'm not that familiar. I did have to go to a budget meeting today, and I had help with the comptroller's office, and we sat down for almost an hour and we went through everything that has to do for the next fiscal year for the city clerks and the elections office. And I think we're in good shape right now as part of the budget is.
Thank you, Damaris. Ron, Mr. Azu, please.
Thank you. Well, certainly as an attorney, that is our number one duty, organization. People say, oh, lawyers, they're smooth talkers. And I can assure you, any smooth talk comes from 1000% preparation. I get upset when people say, wow, he or she, they're just winging it. That person's really on top of things. And I say, well, that's because they know the file front and back, word for word, the tiniest reference to the most important detail. And as much as I like to say I'm the greatest lawyer alive, it's the facts, and it's the simple ability to take a story and simplify this story and convince people of your side of the story. So that in and of itself is just 1000% organization, simplification. I will admit, my first trial was a 14-day child custody trial. And later in my career, I pride myself on resolving things before trial, asking the right questions, getting to the bottom of things, keeping things unfocused, not asking for things you don't deserve, or setting people's expectations correctly. This is something that leads me to my leadership and management. Leadership role, I do a lot of teaching. I teach first-time homebuyer classes. I also teach landlords. I feel I have been a counselor at law in my practice, and my duty is to teach my clients what their expectations should be and an understanding of things. That really came up strong in family law and teaching people what divorce means and separating emotions from contractual issues. But as far as management is concerned, I have an approach, more of the carrot approach, and encouraging people and rewarding staff rather than the stick and making demands and warnings and things to that effect. I approach first and foremost with respect. And especially in this position, I'll be in a position of seeking their counsel. I need an understanding of the process as they do it before I can then start supervising them. And then lastly, as far as budgeting is concerned, my undergraduate background is in accounting and finance. I spent many years as a financial auditor, doing private books for small companies to $1 million corporations, budgeting as well, and operational auditing as well, which ultimately led me to law school, which is more the subjective aspect of things. So I do have, and then I must say, every case that I have has a budget. And I personally pride myself. I get most of my cases from colleagues who say, this person doesn't have a lot of money, and I need this exorbitant retainer to get started. And I say, well, why don't I look at the case? Maybe we can address things easier. Maybe we can take a different approach. We can work within your means. These are important factors as well. So I do have knowledge and ability on making figures fit.
Thank you, Mr. Azu. Ms. Hernandez and Ms. Ruiz, I appreciate your answers to my 2 questions. Mr. President, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the council who wish to ask questions at this time? Hearing none. At this point, what I'm going to be requesting is for city councilors to now, based on whatever your criteria is, to nominate an individual out of these 3 candidates that you want to see. If that nomination is seconded, then that person will be available as a potential vote. And we will, if you do one person, if everybody believes one person, then that's it, and that's it. If somebody else then selects a second person, then we can go with the second. And then the final is if we get all 3, if someone makes a 3rd nomination and that's seconded, then what we will do is if whoever gets nominated and seconded, if there's any further discussions or questions, and then the roll will be called, and each individual counselor will then select whichever individuals were nominated. And remember, 5 votes is required to be able to adopt and approve and remember this evening. I see that Mr. Gonzalez has his hand raised. Mr. Gonzalez, what's the purpose for your question?
I would like to nominate somebody.
Okay, Mr. Gonzalez, who would you like to nominate?
Mr. Azu.
There's a motion to nominate Mr. Azu. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Motion made in a second. Are there any other nominations? I
I
see
would like to
Councilor Dela
nominate-
Cruz with her hand up. Councilor Dela Cruz.
I nominate Damaris Ruiz.
There is a motion for Ms. Ruiz. Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. Are there any other individuals?
I would like to nominate Erica Hernandez.
There's a motion to nominate Ms. Hernandez. Is there a second?
Council President, I was muted.
Oh, okay. Well, now you're unmuted, Mr. Rodriguez.
No,
What is your-
I was saying that for the fairness of the process, I was gonna second Miss Give me 1 second.
Well, right now, we're looking for a second for Ms. Hernandez, and I will go back to
I'll
you.
second Ms. Hernandez, and then if you go back to Maria's motion, I'll second that motion as
I
well.
will ask again, is there anybody else? One last time, is there any other members? Do you want to is there anybody else? Mr.
Damaris Ruiz.
I'll second Damaris.
Motion has been made and nominated, Ms. Ruiz, seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. All three candidates at this point have been nominated and have been properly seconded. Any further discussions or questions of any of the candidates at this time? Here, the chair has a question or two that I'd like to raise. I wanted to see who was going to make it to this round. Before I go, Ms. Dela Cruz, your hand is up. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I would like to say that we want to thank the three people who has been coming all the way to this point. It has been a lot of work. And to tell you the truth, I wish we could have the three of them working for the city of Lawrence, because the three of them have a lot of potential. But at this moment, I'm choosing Damaris Ruiz because she has been in that office for a long time. And she brings a lot of experience. Of course, a lot of things that she needs to learn. It will take time. Trainings and years passing by will make a difference. And at the same time, she will be willing to take the lowest salary if it is possible, and getting a 2% per year. Then my motion is to select Damaris as the next clerk of the city of Lawrence. Thank you.
Very good. I mean, I'll open it up. Does anybody want to advocate for their candidate for any reason? Is there anything that you want to bring up to the council at this point, city councilors, on behalf of a candidate you want?
I have a question for you.
Mr. Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
So the fact that the three of them are nominated, we're gonna do a roll call on behalf of each candidate.
So what we will do, Mr. Thank you for the questions. I need to make this clear. When the clerk calls the roll, and a counselor's name will be asked, and then that counselor will select one of the three individuals that has been nominated. It'd be as if we were for council president or vice president, that same dynamic. So that's how we're going to go forward with this. Any other counselors wish to either advocate or ask any final questions? I have a question or two that I might want to ask, but if you have an opportunity now, you may, if you want to, this is a good time as any. Okay. My question, I've got a couple questions, and it really deals with management. We're going to go with Mr. Razoo first. Tell me, Mr. Razoo, important part of this job is managing an office. Tell me, how many people have you directly managed who were direct reports to you, and how long did you have that position when you had to manage those individuals?
Let's see. Undergraduate, I was a risk manager. I perhaps had an accounting staff of 12 to 15 people directly to me, conducting audits and analyses and policies and procedures. Since then, I've worked at a couple of different law firms, having a staff of 4 to 5 lawyers, and then maybe 6 or 7 paralegals. Most recently, I've been doing a lot of work with a nonprofit housing counseling agency. My staff was no attorneys. It was social workers and even mental health counselors and things to that effect. 4 to 5 individuals at most.
On any one of those positions, what's the length of time that you actually manage those individuals?
Anywhere from a year to 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
That's
the question. Thank you. Miss Ruiz, same question. What's the number of people that you had direct reports that you directly managed? You know, you had to sign off on whatever you had to sign off on. They were directly reporting to you and all the management stuff. And how long were you in that management position?
Right now, I'm managing, let's see, 7 people, both in elections and the city clerk's office. I've only been doing it for about a month because I've been acting. I also did manage about 5 employees when I used to work in the cemetery for 6 months when we had no superintendent.
Ms. Hernandez, same question.
I used to own a boutique, and in my boutique, I used to have like just folks that I would manage, and it was more as I could afford them, so seasonal. Throughout the 2 years that I had my boutique open, I ended up having 4 individuals that I managed. After that, then I also worked for a student-ran business here in the community of Lawrence. I had around 8 to 12 students within the frame of 3 years that will go through our doors. The purpose, what I try to work with them was getting them A+ certified. So pretty awesome gig. So I work, then currently I've been managing a team. My team has, the numbers go up and down depending on the need of the program that I'm running. I currently have 6 individuals that I'm managing. 3 of them are full-time within my specific program. The other 3 are part-timers. So they only give me X amount of hours per week. And I've been doing that for a little bit over a year. It really depends on the need of the current work that I'm doing. I have other management experience, more when I'm contracted to go into these small businesses within the community. They want me to come in and kind of assess and create a strategic plan on how they can create processes, or depending on the need of the client when they hire me. So a lot of times I will go in and I will be working with the direct staff in order to make the assessments needed to give my recommendations at the end. So I get to do more direct work with the staff. And I've been doing that since 2014. So it's something that I've been doing on a periodic basis for the past 7 years.
Thank you. One of the aspects of it, I just want my colleagues to know that I've asked each one of you to essentially do an exercise for a writing sample. I happen to think that writing is an important part of this job. It's part of the communication skills that are critical, both verbal and written. Getting messages out to city councilors, letting them know what's going on, letting them know it's on the agenda. Being able to communicate via the written word is pretty important. I will also let my counselor colleagues know that I gave them, I wanted a less than a 2-page or less. And I also wanted it done by a time certain. It would be fair to the process, I think, to let the counselors have the copies in their packet of those memos that were written, and they were of course free to take a chance to take a look at it. But for me, not only was it important to see writing samples, but it was also important for me to see if individuals were able to follow the direction, the requirements that were laid out. Ms. Hernandez, you put together a 2-page paragraph and you got it in on time. Ms. Ruiz, you put in a 2-page memo, but you were several hours. You gave it back on the very next day. And Mr. Azu, you gave it in a timely manner, but you went beyond you went beyond what we're looking for. I was looking for 2 pages or less, and your memo went in exceedance of that. These are not sins. These are not the huge make it or break it, but it gives a bit of a window, right, as to when direction is provided and seeing how people respond to those directions. And counselors, you had every chance to have a chance to look at those, but I wanted you to know a little bit of the background story that may not be inside those documents. But I do thank you all for submitting them. So my question for you, Ms. Hernandez, it's 4:15 on a Friday afternoon. You've got 3 people at the desk. You've got a city council president saying, we got this thing that got to get out. This agenda's got to get out right away. And meanwhile, the budget and finance director's got a fire drill with respect to getting some monies getting out for this appropriation transfers, and you don't know what's going on. Meanwhile, you're leaving your job in 15 minutes. It's almost 4:30. What do? You
Has a
can't do
fire
all
drill,
this.
by the way.
Pardon me, Mr. Bonet?
I say he always has a fire drill, the budget and finance director.
This is a very real scenario. How do you deal with that?
You know, I'm a person that I'm constantly dealing with last minute needs. You have to assess the needs and prioritize them. There are going to be other opportunities for me to leave at a timely manner. There are things that just cannot wait. I'm used to dealing with these type of situations. On any given day, I could be asked to work on something because it's critical. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the work, and this is something that I'm willing to work with. And it's part of what I do. If the finance department needs something, I'm sure it's crucial. I have to make myself available. One thing that I can say that throughout my years of experience, I've always been someone that you can consider dependable. So I'm always there and available to meet the needs of those that it's part of the nature of the work. And I am aware of that. I am aware of what I'm getting into. So.
Miss Ruiz, we have a city council meeting. I've got 3 counselors challenging the chair on members or on different questions regarding policy, regarding procedures. And I'm looking for you for some guidance on some stuff. I'm looking for some mastery of the rules to help the chair provide some sort of guideways and fairness for the council meeting so that we're all following by the rules. What kind of confidence can you give me that you have a fundamental understanding of our council's procedures and being able to provide to the chair in a timely manner the kind of recommended information that's going to be needed at that time of, as you can imagine, sometimes these times can be pretty stressful when important matters are up. I want you to talk a little bit about how you would proceed in that kind of environment.
If I have the time, if I get in a specific time, then I'll definitely get the information to you. If it's something that it's last minute, it might take me a few minutes, but I'm pretty confident that I can find the answer.
And what happens if a city councilor is tugging at you, because you've got essentially everybody's going to have 9 bosses, right? Not only are you going to be directed by people coming to the counter, but you're going to have 9 city councilors pulling, coercing, trying to get information from you. And it's not easy. And sometimes it can be conflicting. You're going to have some counselors coming up to you and say, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And other counselors say, you know something, I don't need X, Y, I need this. I need this to happen now. How do you handle that? How do you handle the conflict that you're going to admit? The very nature, this is not ill-intended by any counselors, but that's just the very nature of the body that we are 9 people, 9 different cats.
I would see the needs of each counselor and see how I can manage to get the information. If it's similar information, I can definitely get it together quicker. But I can definitely try my best to get all the information they need.
Mr. Azu, the city clerk's office, very challenging. You called it well-oiled today. Why do you call it well-oiled? What gives you the impact that this is a finely run organization that isn't really just easy a caretaker to move things along?
Well, the simple fact that it's a very busy organization. I'll cheat and say, Councilor, I apologize. He had mentioned that he was longing for or missing that simple hour in the middle of the day. It was something that he noticed and had concerns about. The simple notion that everything from dog licenses to marriage certificates and birth certificates, catering to the public, or most importantly, Not everybody comes up and says, I would like X. Here is my check. Thank you very much. Goodbye. They have dozens of questions. They possibly need to be guided in another direction, some assistance or alternatives. They're in a hurry. How can we do it as quickly without upsetting them and keeping within the rules? And then just hearing some of the major concerns from the counselors. Having online access. Okay, that's a nice feature. I didn't hear anything that was saying we have a pandemic issue, ongoing concern, public pressure. We haven't been able to resolve it. I'm not going to kid you and say my efforts are going to come from those around me, my staff, my 9 bosses. What's most important? What do you need addressed? What do we have to fix? What do we have to prepare for?
Thank you. Ms. Ruiz, you've got the advantage of being there for 2 months now. What's your biggest weakness so far that you need to somehow gain some strength and gain some ability to master? And at this point, what is your biggest strength, if you will, that you bring into this job? So what's the thing that you're going to need to work on to improve, to make yourself the best clerk in the Commonwealth? And what is it that you already have that's a stepping stone that you're bringing to the table already that's already strong?
Okay, so my biggest strength, it would be knowing the city clerk's office. I know everything that goes on. And I'm very experienced with anything from birth certificates to death certificates to marriages to businesses to pretty much how to run the whole office. My weakness is mostly learning how to do ordinances, learning how to do public hearings, learning how to work better with the city council meetings, and being able to run a meeting basically by myself, taking notes, doing roll call, and another weakness would be the elections office. I need to tap into that office, and I need to learn what's going on there and get more experience in what goes on with running an election.
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez, same question. What do you think is your biggest weakness that needs to be, essentially, you need to work on to improve? And what is the thing that's going to make you the shining star of the Merrimack Valley and the state as our new city clerk?
I think currently the weakness, we can consider it being the unknown. What I don't know about the position, it could be a weakness, but it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to really sharpen my toolbox, get the knowledge that I need in order to excel in this position. One of the things that I'm really good at is preparing myself, finding ways to be able to take care of situations immediately. I have the strength of being a very critical thinker. I know how to analyze things fast. It doesn't take me a lot to get to the solution of the problem. So that's the strength that I have. So my weakness, I would say, is the unknown, the things that I yet don't know about the position. That I have, because I'm sure there's a lot that has not been shared through the description of this job, but I also see that as an opportunity more than a weakness.
Mr. Razoo, same question. You've had a chance to think about a little bit more than the other 2 candidates. So weaknesses that you can be honest with us about, and then your strength that you can also be honest with us about.
I was frankly frightened that I made the second round of interviewing because I had not worked in a clerk's office before. And it was Mr. Bonet who was very, very supportive and saying that, well, we're looking for people with management experience and things to that effect. I am a preparer. I'd like to say when I speak on a topic, I know it very well. or I'm very prepared not to speak unless I'm very knowledgeable. So I am worried that I haven't worked there before, and there's going to be a lot of interest, and I'm going to want to learn, which I enjoy. And I don't want to sit there enjoying myself when things are going by the wayside and people are counting me to get up to speed. I promised I'm quick to get up to speed. Can I follow through? That's my perhaps my biggest weakness. I would say my strength is that I have a lot of experience resolving things, working with individuals, speaking with them, and the wide range of people who are upset and are speaking with expletives and loud voices, right up to boards of directors, judges, most importantly, juries, thinking, opinionated individuals who I need to convince and have them trust me and at least hear what I'm saying, overcoming the stigma of being a self-interested attorney. I think I can work well and speak with others and communicate, understand people and manage. I look forward to protecting my employees, but catering to the public, and answering to my 9 bosses, but again, protecting my employees and answering to the public.
Last question, Ms. Hernandez, in the order of what is most important, serving the city council, serving the people, or doing what the mayor's asking you to do?
Wow, tough one. I guess first you would have to assess what is the need of each particular party, right? And I will always, as the main office for the community of Lawrence, I will say the people. If we have people that are not being properly served and they're not content with the services that they are receiving from the city clerk's office, then I wouldn't be doing my job and the office wouldn't be operating at its best, because we have to maintain the community content, happy and satisfied with the service that we are providing to them. The city council, I also know that part of the city clerk's position is to work with the city council committee, and then the mayor. And I would say the people, the city council, and then the mayor, if that makes any sense.
Do you agree, Mr. Rizzo?
Again, I agree with the tough question part. It's about communication. And I certainly, I can't imagine the mayor's going to say, I am unconcerned with anything, anywhere, but what I just asked for. And he would understand, well, what's the circumstance? Has someone been waiting? Is someone in a hurry? Have I made a promise and there's a deadline and a timeline? I always say facts really dictate, and communication is most important. I would never show any disrespect. I would know full well I have many bosses. We serve many masters. And so without upsetting anyone, I'd say it depends. Oh, there's the lawyer's classic answer. It depends. But I would communicate. I don't want to disrespect anyone. I want to assist all 3 if I can. Is that possible, Mr. Mayor? Do you think I could spend 15 minutes over here and without stepping on toes? Maybe I cheated in trying to change the parameters of your question.
Ms. Ruiz, you're actually living this. You getting direction from city council presidents, city councilors, mayors, and an onslaught of people at your desk coming in to ask you for things. How do you handle that when it's competing people for your time and your interests?
Normally, I choose which one I feel is the most important at that given moment. If I have to have a customer wait a few minutes for me, then be like, I'll be right back. I have something to do really quick, and I'll be right back to assist you. I haven't had the chance to actually been in that situation where I guess I've been lucky, if I can say that. When I've gotten questions, I've been able to answer them as thorough and right away as I could. But if that does come up in the future, I will definitely assess the situation and try to figure out, okay, which is the most important right now and what can wait a few more minutes.
Okay. I want to thank you all very much for answering my questions and for answering the questions of my colleagues. I want to thank you, each of you. I'm not sure which way this vote's going to be going at this point, but I want to thank each of you for stepping up, for applying, for being part of the process and being an agent of some sort of either change or contributions to our city. Again, don't know where this is going at the end of this vote, but I just want to make sure that I think I can speak on behalf of everybody that we're grateful and thankful that you are here and you have this interest. So thank you. Clerk, will you please call the roll, and as your name is mentioned, please signify the individual by which you are selecting. Select the individual by name.
Counselor Levy.
Oh, okay. What is the name of the person?
Yeah, who your nominee?
Who you're selecting, Counselor?
Thank you, all of you. So you've been doing so great work, and it's wonderful, I think, so that you all have that, you are ready for this position, but we have to take the decision and just only take one. But you did a very great job with the interview. So at this time, I'm going to do my vote for Erica.
For Ms. Hernandez. Thank you. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Mr. Azu,
Noted. Counselor Reyes.
Erica Hernandez,
Counselor Abdu.
Counselor Abdu, your mute button is on.
My apologies, colleagues. Azu.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Payano. Noted. Counselor De La Cruz.
Damaris.
Thank you. Counselor Rodriguez.
Ms. Hernandez,
Counselor Estela Reyes. Noted. Counselor LaPlante.
Azu. Would you please tally the names, clerk, and provide the vote count, please?
For Mr. Azu, I am showing 3 votes. For Ms. Hernandez, I'm showing 3 votes also, and then for Ms. Ruiz, I'm showing 1 vote.
Okay. Counselors, as a reminder, we need 5 votes to pass anything. Is there any more information at this point that any counselor wishes to ask to make sure they may want to stay with this? You want to change it? If not, we're going to go for another round. This will not be going all night. We will do another round at this point if there are no comments or questions to any of the candidates or any advocacy. If you want to make a pitch, this is your time to do it for why you think one candidate is, why you think so strongly. This is the time. So does anybody wish to take advantage of this? If not, we're going to go to another roll call. Clerk, please call the roll again, please.
Counselor Estela Reyes. Noted. Counselor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Ms. Hernandez,
Counselor Maria De La Cruz.
Damaris.
Counselor Pavel Payano. Noted. Counselor Abdu.
Mr. Azu.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Hernandez,
I apologize, I couldn't hear you.
Erica Hernandez,
Thank you. Counselor Gonzalez
Mr. Azu,
and Counselor Levy.
Ms. Hernandez,
Counselor LaPlante.
Mr. Rizzu, I believe the vote is the same. Can you please confirm that, clerk?
Yes, the vote is the same, Counselor.
Counselors, one more bite at the apple on this. If you have a candidate that you wish to articulate or speak on behalf of, if you have a question or clarification that you wish to ask of the candidates, we're going to do this vote one more time. If we are shy of the 5 votes at this time, this will go back to the Personnel Committee, in which time we will then, Mr. Bonet will be directed to then continue because the application process is ongoing, but to then continue the process, of which case someone like Mr. Santiago that was discussed earlier will now be a part of this process and may qualify for a formal interview, depending on how the vetting process goes. And that's how this will go. So counselors, any more
Yes,
comments? Questions?
Yes, I have
Rodriguez, you have the floor.
quick comment. If you allow
You
me
have the
to.
floor.
Yes, it is important to note that we have only 7 counselors tonight. To any candidates that is in front of us, or 2 of the candidates that is in front of us today, are tried by 2 votes by actually acquiring this position. That is also something that we should consider. 2 counselors missing, and 2 votes are missing for 2 of the candidates. I just want to point that out.
Duly noted. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Any other counselors wish to speak or ask questions? Now's
Yes.
the time.
I would
Mr.
like to make a motion to send it to the full council.
Yeah,
We are on a full council right now. This is the time to ask questions or advocate for your candidate.
I have a question.
Ms. Levy.
Could we go to a second round, but the last 2 that right now are tied, to bring them for us, on the second round for a question again?
I'm not sure if I understand your question. Can these candidates remain as part of this tier, even
Yes.
though we'll go back and maybe bring some other candidates to the forefront? It's up to the council. I mean, it's really up to all of us.
No, she's not asking that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Go ahead, Ms. Levy.
Yes,
I'll
that is what I'm asking. So to get to a second round, but to bring those 2 that are tied right now on the second round to keep it for the second round.
And Council Levy, and also bring others to the interview. That's what Council Person is saying.
Yes.
So you want to have another round? Is that just so I'm clear what you're looking for? Are you looking to have another round here at the full council? Are you looking to have another round back at the personnel where they're going forward with looking at other applications and other candidates? What do you mean by another round, Counselor?
Well, like you said, we have to do the process with whatever candidate that we're going to bring in. So they have to go to personnel. We have to interview them. They have to interview them. They have to do the recommendation. So at the time that we're going to have the full council meeting then, so maybe we can bring against Ms. Hernandez and Mr. Azul.
So if I'm understanding your question, and I apologize if I'm not, you believe that there's maybe 2 candidates that you mentioned just now that should be at this round, at the final round. Is
Yes.
that, and no matter what happens, we may bring some other people up potentially, depending on applications, depending on personnel committee, and you want to make sure that, and it's also a decision made of the candidates. They may want to continue, they may withdraw. So it's a 2-way street here. So we may want that, but they may say, you know something, I withdraw, or I want to stay involved.
I would like to hear from Mr. Bonet that maybe he got, some information on the process, if that is possible.
So what we're going to do is Mr. Bonet's been asked a question. Mr. Gonzalez has his hand up. He will be next to answer the questions. Mr. Bonet.
So no, I just wanted to get point of information and probably clarification. So I understand Councilor Levy's question is, can we start the process from the beginning with the initial interviewing committee with new applicants and bring it down to the personnel committee, and then personnel committee would recommend whatever amount of candidates they deem to the full council and include the two top highest voting or scoring candidates here, which would be Mr. Azu and Ms. Hernandez. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, if they agree to continue
Right.
the process, you know.
No, it can be done, yes.
But I wouldn't know, like, if there are some candidates that maybe it's apply after the process, like it was closed, like as you had 114, 100 whatever application that will look at us. So we're gonna take it, you know, the application that still hasn't been looked at this point.
So,
like if we had a person that applied that would like to be part of this process, so that if we can include the person and whoever is in there. So now, so we're gonna be more transparency of the process that we're doing.
right. So I have, I think there was two new ones the last time I checked. And of course, there's 284 other individuals that were looked at. And those individuals that we selected to interview dropped out, they withdrew from the process. And the main reason, and I didn't want to talk about this until maybe later, because it would have been something to consider, but maybe is to consider as well now, is that our pool of candidates really shrunk, got really tight when the question to the candidates, to the applicants were you willing to move into the city of Lawrence? And so once I asked that question, a lot of people did not want to uproot their families or sell their homes or move into the city of Lawrence for that matter. So that took my pool of candidates from 284 and crushed it down to probably, like 30 people. Some living already in Lawrence and some here in the Merrimack Valley. One of them, that we thought was the one that had the only city clerk experience was a Floridian who was from this area, and they was town clerk, city clerk in Florida. We thought it was going to be a highly motivated individual. Withdrew because they just decided they didn't want to come up north. So I believe that we asked a question in the personnel committee. And we discussed it, or maybe I mentioned it, but I know I asked the city attorney, and it was because one of the candidates had a question. I believe it was Attorney Azu, whose question was, or maybe it was Erica's. What was the time? No, it wasn't Erica. It was Azu, because Erica is from Lawrence. So what was the timeline to move into the city of Lawrence if you're selected as city clerk? And so we didn't have a specific answer to it. We believe that the job description was approved with residency of Lawrence because the individual was part of the board of registrar and needed to be a registered voter of the city of Lawrence. And so the first meeting that takes place with the board of registrar to present the nominees occurs in August 15th. So we believe that the individual had to be in Lawrence by at least that day, right? Had to be a resident and a registered voter. However, we asked the city attorney for guidance, and she provided us with a short email that stated that although she believed, as well as the council believed, that residency was a requirement for the job, it is not a requirement of the job, as the Secretary of State had indicated. However, that if the council wanted to exclude the residency, they could do so, or waive the residency for this particular person, they could do so because it wasn't a requirement of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So that's something you might want to consider as well, because that would open the pool of candidates to a larger crowd of individuals or a pool of applicants. I'm not sure if you wanted to hear that one now or later, but I thought you should know because the question was, when do I need to move into Lawrence by? And if you waive it, the individuals that are before you and anyone else that is considered later on may not have to move into Lawrence. It'd be great. I'm pretty sure Council de la Cruz is always asking, are you moving into Lawrence? Because it would kind of signify that you're invested in the community, but it's not. I think it was placed in the job description and the job posting thinking that it was a rule or law or regulation of Secretary Galvin's office, and it's not. It was something that somebody thought a long time ago that in order for you to be a board of registrar, you need to be a registered voter of the Lawrence, which you do, but because the city clerk is an ex-official, he's ex-official as a city clerk, not as a resident of the city of Lawrence.
So in my opinion, just only in my opinion, I will not waive the resident parts. So for me, that has to be a part of the city of Lawrence and register in the city of Lawrence and able to vote in the city of Lawrence.
If it stays the same way it is now, I have a little small amount of applicants to go and review. And I'm not saying that Lawrence does not have qualified individuals. We have a lot of educated individuals in the community that have gone and got their degree and came back or are nearby. I'm just saying that a lot of them have jobs and they may not want to work for the city of Lawrence, and so they're not applying. And everyone else who's applying for city clerk believes that a city clerk job is a clerical or an administrative job such as secretary or confidential secretary or something like that, when in fact it's deceiving because really a city clerk is more of a departmental executive official of the city of Lawrence.
Okay, in this order, Mr. Gonzalez, then Ms. De La Cruz, and then Ms. Reyes. Mr. Gonzalez.
Well, now I have a problem because Mr. Atsu agreed to move to Lawrence, and I support the people they need to live in Lawrence. Now I'm confused because another wave that he don't have to live in Lawrence.
No, that's not what I said. What I said was that as it stands right now, he has to move to Lawrence if he's a chosen person. However, if the city council wishes not to be a requirement to be in Lawrence, they can do so. It's not mandatory under the rules of the Secretary of State. But as you have approved the ordinance, he has to, or if it's Damaris, she has to move into Lawrence, as Ms. Hernandez already resides in Lawrence. They have to move to Lawrence.
Thank you.
But if you wanted me to open up, if you wanted to open up the pool to more people applying, then I would recommend taking out that provision to allow the city of Lawrence to get hundreds of applicants, and therefore you would be bombarded with a lot of qualified individuals.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. De La Cruz, and then Ms. Reyes.
No, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Might take that back. I thought you were done. Mr. Gonzalez, you still have the floor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was a little confused with it. No, I support Mr. Rodriguez because we have two candidates that tie. I don't want to support another people to apply and then delay this process. And I will support Mr. Rodriguez that we had two councilors missing tonight. They send the two candidates tie to the next full council and see the two vote that we missing tonight, because it's not fair. The two candidates that tie, they've been spending all the time with us, and they tie and they put more candidates against them. I don't support that. I support Mr. Rodriguez that just go send it to the full council and wait for the two councilors that we're missing tonight to see if we don't stay tied. It will be not tied if the all night council there. Somebody got to vote for one of the person, and I think that's the right thing we can do. Send it to the full council. The two candidates they are tied right now. Thank you.
Okay. Miss Dela Cruz.
I make a motion to go for the last round tonight.
Ms. Dela Cruz, so that's your recommendation. Would you allow Ms. Reyes to have her comment and then we can go for the vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I want to mention, asking to my colleagues to take Ms. Erica in consideration. She grow in our community. She know our community need, what is our diversity. She work in our community. She support our people all the time. It doesn't matter circumstance. And through this pandemic, she working outside. It doesn't matter what is the weather, what is the case. I want to ask support Miss Erica because she is our product. She is from Lawrence. We need to support our youth women.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes. Appreciate those comments. Any other members wish to speak on this matter? Clerk, please do the roll.
The motion is to what? Another round?
We're going to do another round and then we'll have to figure out what we're going to do after this round. And go ahead, let's deal with the round first.
Counselor Levy.
No.
Counselor, I couldn't hear you. I apologize.
I said no.
No, it's a name.
We need a name,
Another
Counselor
round.
Levy.
It's another round.
Another round, need a name.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Mr. Azu,
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Ms. Hernandez,
You say Damaris?
Erica Hernandez,
Hernandez. I apologize. Counselor Abdu.
Attorney Azu.
Counselor Payano. Noted. Counselor Dela Cruz.
Mr. Azu,
Counselor Rodriguez.
Ms. Hernandez,
Counselor Estela Reyes. Noted. And Counselor LaPlante.
Mr. Azu. Tally, please, clerk.
I'm showing 4 for Mr. Azu, 2 for Mr. Hernandez.
3 for Hernandez.
I believe you would, could you
I'm
double
sorry.
check? We 3
Yep,
for Mr.
1,
Hernandez?
2, 3 is correct. Yeah, 3 for Hernandez and 4 for Azu at this moment.
Thank you very much. Counselor, we have a couple of options. Let me give you a recommendation. Let's see if you think this is a good idea. We have our next full city council meeting coming up on April the 6th. That's usually we have an extra week at this time, just the way the calendar is structured. My recommendation is that we do a hybrid of what's already been discussed, right? If these two, we had 2, I don't know if we want to keep 3 or 2, however we want to do that for out of these individuals at the full council, but let's see what comes from the additional candidates or potential applicants. If the personnel committee has the capacity within the next 2 weeks to do another potential round of interviews, if there is anybody else. Apparently we have 2 that at least have done, but I think we may get more if we put things back out again. That way we're actually not losing any time. We're still going to be on the April 6th glide path. If it gets kind of nutty, we start getting a lot of applicants, or we decided this is, we can't do this justice. Maybe we do a special meeting depending on the number of applicants, personnel committee, their ability for scheduling. But maybe we can get it all done. So, but let's, that would be my recommendation, that we go forward with the anticipation that on the 6th, we can come back again with this. If that's what the body does, or we can continue until the personnel committee. Other options, wait till the personnel committee gives us more names, and then we can. So I'm opening to suggestions. I'm looking for your guidance, Counselor. This is a decision made by all of us, right? This is not just the chair. Everybody's making this decision. So that's my recommendation.
Council President,
I see a couple of people with their hands up. I saw Councilor De La Cruz first. I then saw Councilor Anna Levy second. And let's go in that order.
Council
Mr. Abdu,
President, I think we have two numbers today that we had to pick. Mr. Azul, he got 4 counts, and I believe that he has been the winner for the night. Then to be fair, we had to pick and choose. We had 2 candidates that are the last winners, and then we had to pick one.
Ms. Levy?
Mr. President, I think that you are with me. Like I told before, that we should get another round, so interview, so the personnel committee. So, and that we should bring 3 candidates, MC, Ms. Hernandez and Mr. Azul. They decide to continue on this, so they can come in like that's 2-1 for this round and gets another person on the second round or interview.
Mr. Abdu, do you think you're, and Mr. Bonet and Mr. Abdu, no particular order? Let me start with Mr. Bonet. How quickly can you go through, maybe get something online, see what kind of other candidates we can get and see where that goes? That's the first question. Then after you answer that, I'm going to go to Mr. Abdu and see how quickly can we reconstitute the personnel committee to review whatever Mr. Bonet is able to send down. So Mr. Bonet, what's your capacity and what can you get? What do you think? And this is not going to end well because I don't have Mr. Bonet answering this question. So let me just jump. Let's go off with the hypothetical, Mr. Abdu. Let's say that it takes a week. A week from today, he puts something up on Indeed tomorrow. We get more applicants. We look at the stuff. They do some preliminary interviews. A week from today, which is what's today's date, the 18th, the 25th of March. He gets some names down to you. You've got, I think I've got a calendar here. You've got some days after that. You got the following week to conduct some interviews. Is that doable?
Yes, it would not be consistent. Would not be consistent with the first round.
Okay.
Time limitations coming up on the Easter holiday and the April City Council meeting. We would probably want to do 1, maybe 2 meetings, but they would be so low. I would recommend that we just did 1 interview per candidate that is presented, and then I would further suggest that we would do 1 round of interviews and vote to send this full body a certain number of finalists, to include the finalists that are here that may not be discouraged by the activities of the council this evening and withdraw.
All right. Oh, Mr. Bonet, you're back. So were you privy to the discussion?
I'm sorry, I had to take a quick men's room break. I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
We nominated you as the next clerk, Mr. Bonet. You start tomorrow morning. Congratulations.
Thank you for your service. So we were just spitballing a little bit about a process and how we can. A city councilor would like to see some movement relatively quickly with respect to maybe the next city council meeting, and we were looking to see how we could go about getting the more applicants and including the applicants that are already there that have not been considered. I mean, one notable name that came up earlier this evening, of course, including him and others. And then how long will that take before you can get something down to the personnel committee that gives us some sort of, I don't know, answer or some sort of a direction or something to choose from?
So I can it seems like these things usually happen around my vacation time. I am on vacation tomorrow. However, I can have, yeah, it's always around. I can have my staff start looking at and certifying whatever applicants have come in. I can at least get an interview. The max interview that I could do in one day would be like 6 people with a break in the middle, about 40 minutes to an hour each. And so I can do something. I can have interviews done on Wednesday. If Councilor De La Cruz, City Attorney Ruano are available and they don't have, like, hopefully the attorney doesn't have any court cases. Although I have done 1 or 2 interviews by myself because there were some conflicts in the schedules. So I gotta have something down to the personnel committee by Friday. I mean, I gotta have it by Thursday, but
Friday.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
I'm not sure what the what would be the personnel committee's next meeting.
Monday.
Well, it would be Monday, Mr. Bonet, but that wouldn't be done in time. They would have to do a special meeting the week after. So it won't be next week. It'll be the week after to give you time. And that's where Mr. Abdi was talking about potential schedules and how he would address it.
Because I know next week there are 3 interviews occurring at the personnel committee. There are three appointments by the mayor. So those are interviews that will be taking place. They're probably going to be long. And to add that one would probably be longer. So yeah, so I can get something to Chairman Abdu by next week, Thursday, Friday.
Mr. Abdi, does that work for you? And
Yeah, I would, first of all, thank you, Mr. Bonet. Yes, Mr. President, I would then suggest we could meet either the Monday night of the following week or Tuesday or both. We'd probably be wise, like we did a couple of weeks back, to schedule 2 nights. And if the second night wasn't needed, we could dispose of it.
So that I think, so if we go in that direction, let me just make a plea to the personnel committee. I appreciate anything. We appreciate the work that you're doing. And the hard part is making a recommendation and then bringing it up to us, because you are dealing a lot with a lot of these individuals and maybe asking more questions. So if you're able to talk to 2 or 3, if there's a preferred candidate, we would benefit from your perspective. So that would be helpful if once it gets to that point. Mr. Gonzalez, you had your hand raised. Are you set, or did you want to add something? Yes, sir.
No, Mr. Rodriguez put the point that why we don't send the 2 candidates straight to the full council when the 2 city council didn't make it tonight, and then we can decide that the all 9 councilors vote for the 2 candidates, the 2 candidates, the tonight candidate. We can send it to the full council. Why we wasting all this time? I make a motion if it's somebody seconded to send it to the full council, that the 2 candidates we have tonight.
Mr. Gonzalez, thank you. We are already at the full council level. We're not sending it to anybody. We are here. We can certainly table it here, and it stays here, and it'll stay here for April the 6th. So nothing needs to change. There's no need to make a motion. We certainly, if you wanted to, I guess what would be in order, if you wanted to maybe. This sounds, I don't mean to sound this harsh, but if you wanted to narrow down the current field from 3 to 2, based on the last set of numbers, I mean, that could be in order as well, if that's where you wanted to go. And then we can go back to personnel. Mr. Bonet can do his thing, personnel can do, and then whoever the 2 that you want, if that's what you want, will be augmented with maybe 1 or 2 more candidates. And then on the 6th, we potentially could have the same exact conversation that we're having now on the 6th with a person or 2, perhaps. I don't know who's on the pool. I have no idea where this is going with respect to the application. So, part of this is difficult to predict what we're going to be getting. We may get some stellar candidates. We may get candidates who don't qualify. Who's to know? I don't know. But we do have a couple of weeks of time, right? We have that time. We could take advantage of it.
Motion to table?
There is a motion to table. Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion to table does not get a second and fails. So counselors, that's where we are. Do we want to, we'll keep these two individuals at the full council? We'll ask the city, Mr. Bonet, to continue doing what he's doing. And then we can come back on the 6th and my question for you, counselor, is do we have 2 candidates from this today or 3 candidates? I can't make that decision on my own. It's going to be collectively. We're going to figure out, do we want the top 2 candidates or all 3 candidates coming back for next Tuesday? Keeping in mind, the more the people at this level, the more complex it gets. We've already seen that tonight, right? So think about that as we make this decision.
Well,
Mr. LaPlante, can you close the application says until it's filled?
It's
If we
still
don't close, if we don't
sorry.
close the application process, it's going to be more people are going to be coming in. Then we have to decide when we're going to close that posting.
This council has made a decision for a couple of things. And one of the decisions that we were going to keep, and we had a long discussion about it. We made a decision in January that we were going to keep this open until filled. Because what would happen if we weren't happy, as Mr. Bonet mentioned earlier, that means we would have to re-put something on the agenda. They have to be a new job posting. The dynamics would be an impediment. So this is actually a much more convenient way, an easier way and quicker way to get applicants in. And I understand what you're saying, Ms. Dela Cruz. You want to narrow, you don't want any more, maybe you don't want as many candidates.
The problem is that we, the people that are doing the interview, we have to take a lot of our times. It's
so
a lot.
let's move the interview to the full council.
Ms. Dela Cruz has the floor.
It is a lot of the time. I'll do anything for my community, but the week that we've been doing the interviews, it takes forever. And Mr. Bonet knows because he scheduled it really nice and really on time, but you have to be home the whole day for that.
Okay. Mr. Rodriguez, you want to say something? Because if not, I'm
I said that maybe Maria is not available for interviews. So if we're going to keep on doing interviews, another councilor might jump in.
That's a decision that the
Put
person is going to
If we
make.
put a deadline, we're going to continue having people applying.
Yeah, that's what we decided in January.
Well, it's going to be difficult.
So here's
if you want to change the process, Maria, you can make a motion to change the process, but everything has to be by motions, not what we want.
I am now continue to make any motion that is going to fail because people are not understanding that this is not a personal issue. This is about the city of Lawrence. Then I cannot make a motion. If it's not going to be approved. And my phone is dying. It's dying completely. My phone has like 30 more seconds to die. Okay. And I don't have my computers on, and I don't have my laptop and all of that. Right. Then. Okay.
So let's do this, counselors. I'm going to make a proposal right here. If there's any objections, you're going to let me know, right? I'm going to recommend that we've narrowed down the field to the top 2 candidates. We're going to thank Ms. Ruiz an awful lot for coming in, pitching in, and doing what she's doing, because of her, we've been able to do it. And we are going to continue to value what she brings, regardless of who the new clerk is. And we should be very, very, very thankful for all that she has done. And I know she is not for lack of effort, because she's been putting a lot of effort in, and I know because I'm seeing it. I see it firsthand. So I want to thank you, Miss Ruiz, for all of the great work that you have done to help keep us afloat. I also want to I'm going to make a decision. You guys can say, no, I don't like it. Well, let's keep those 2 candidates. We're going to keep this tabled here. Mr. Bonet, you're going to go ahead and continue getting the applications. You're going to get something to Mr. Abdu by the end of next week to give him some ideas. And then he's going to schedule a meeting probably the week after, the last week in March. However they decide to do it, they can do it. If there's another member who wishes to be part of the small team for whatever reason, I would recommend that we keep it as consistent as possible. That would be helpful, right? So if there's no objection to that direction, which I'm taking from listening to everybody, can we agree that that's the way we should go? Hearing none, I'm now going to be asking for a motion to table so that we
hold
can
on,
leave
hold
those.
on. Mr.
Actually,
President.
good point. I need a motion then to keep Mr. Azu and Ms. Hernandez tabled at this level. That's going to be the motion if the body wishes to do this. Is there a motion to keep
So
it there?
the motion is to keep two of the candidates
Yes,
and then a motion to table.
that's correct.
No more candidate.
That's not the part of the motion. The motion is to keep the two candidates and then to thank Ms. Ruiz for her application and we'll continue to work with her as best we can, and we thank her. But two candidates stay here, and then Mr. Bonet is going to continue doing what he needs to do. Mr. Abdu is going to do it, and his committee is going to do what they need to do. And then on the 6th, we're going to reconvene again. We may or may not have more candidates. I don't know. The crystal ball's not working, so I can't tell you. Are we all clear on that? Does that work? If it is, I'd like to hear a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I vote that we table this matter this evening with Mr. Azu and Ms. Hernandez being carried over to the April 6th meeting and direct the Personnel Committee meeting to interview another round of candidates to also have to send no more than 2 candidates to the full council on April 6th.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
The motion is also to table?
Is
Because I mean, it's
also to table?
confusing.
Is to table
Okay.
and
This is
forward.
discussion, so there's an issue there.
Okay, if it's helpful to break that up into 2 motions, then we can break that up into 2 motions. What's the first motion, Mr. Abdu, and motion to table will come afterwards, right?
Agreed, yeah, because otherwise it doesn't work. Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion that we forward the names of Erica Hernandez and Ronald Azu to the April 6th meeting for consideration to be the next city clerk for the city of Lawrence.
Second.
Motion made and it's seconded. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Mr. Rodriguez.
For the fairness of the process, as I've been saying, I believe that if we're gonna invite others to come to the table to be interviewed by the full council, I believe that we should keep the 3 candidates just as we have them today. Because of the fact that we don't know how is the desire of the other 2 city councilors that are missing. If that's the case, we might, and if that's the case, that they might vote for one candidate only get 1 vote, will be 3, 3, and 3. So even though I'm not voting for Ms. Ruiz, I think that we should keep the 3 table and then open for 2 candidates as Mr. Councilor Abdul suggests, and move forward with the 5. So keeping the 3 here and then bringing 2 more if you guys want. That will actually make the process a lot more fair, because we don't know if the other 2 candidates was going to vote for the Maris Ruiz, the other 2 councilors.
The other 3. It's missing 3.
So it's Mr. Abdu's motion and there's still discussion. Ms. Levy.
No, I agree with Mr. Rodriguez, Councilor Rodriguez. I agree with that. That's we should bring the 3 council to the next city full council, and if we do all the other interview, and we should bring 2 others, so we should do it in case that the other council would like to vote for Ms. Reed. So we don't know.
It's Mr. Abdu's motion. Any more discussion on this matter? Mr. Gonzalez?
the motion is to send just to keep the two candidates tonight, or that's what Mr. Abdul said, the two candidates. Keep the two candidates here, no more.
And open the
Yeah.
process.
That is the motion, Mr. Gonzalez.
Yeah, I will support Mr. Abdul, the two candidates, because it's not fair. They bring to the next city council, they bring more people that we already have two decided 4-3 to the other two city councilors. They can vote for either one.
Through you, Mr.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Just to clarify, Councilor Gonzalez, yes, we are going to bring more people according to what everybody's saying here. So just to be clear, yes, interview process are going to continue. And yes, we are tabling at this point. I mean, we are voting at this point for only two candidates out of the three we have. Just for you to be clear with what is going on.
Is there any more discussion on this matter, on this motion? Ms. Reyes?
Yes, I only want to clarify it again to Councilor Gonzalez. For the next meeting, we supposed to have 5 candidates because we include 4. Because we include 2 additional. But Councilor Rodriguez said we include the 3 candidates we had tonight. And also we have 5 candidates for the next meeting. Or be fair for the whole 3 candidates.
Total 5.
Yeah, total 5.
Mr. President, make a motion to go past 10 p.m.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rodriguez. Discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
On the motion to go past 10 o'clock, Councilor Estela Reyes. Noted. Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz. Councilor de la Cruz.
I think your battery died.
Noted. Councilor Pavel Payano. Noted. Councilor David Abdu.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Jorge Gonzalez.
Yes.
And Councilor Ana Levy.
Yes.
Council President Mark LaPlante.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I believe Ms. Reyes, you had the floor, I believe. No? Mr. Rodriguez, did you have the floor? Nope. So we're looking for a vote at this point. So clerk, there's no further discussion. Clerk, please call the roll on, did you want clarification, Ms. Reyes? Is that what you were looking for, or are we clear now on the motion? Maybe that was where we were. Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Are we clear? Are you, do we all understand that, did you understand the motion? It's before us right now?
So the motion right now, you can repeat it again?
Sure. Clerk, will you please could you please provide the motion for everyone?
The current motion is made by Councilor Abdu to forward 2 candidates' names, Mr. Azu and Ms. Hernandez, that they be carried forward to the April 6th meeting for further consideration. That's the motion before the body at this time.
Okay.
Is that accurate, Mr. Abdu?
Yes.
I can read lips. Okay. Yes, thank you. So that's the motion. Clerk, at this point, please call the roll.
Councilor Ana Levy.
Yes.
Councilor Jorge Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor David Abdu.
Yes.
Councilor Pavel Payano. Noted. Councilor Maria de la Cruz. Noted. Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez.
I say yes.
Councilor Estela Reyes. Noted. Council President LaPlante.
Chair votes in the affirmative. And just so I'm clear, did you name in the motion the 2 candidates, just so we're clear, so there's no ambiguity?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Clerk, do you have the names of the 2 candidates so there's no ambiguity?
I do. I have Mr. Azu and Ms. Hernandez, and I did state that in the motion when I said it a moment ago.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Abdu, you have the floor again for the purposes, I believe, of tabling.
I would like to make a motion to table.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded by Mr. Reyes. No discussion on table matters. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Estela Reyes, noted. Counselor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Both present. I still have a question.
Counselor Maria De La Cruz, noted. Counselor David Abdu.
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Counselor Jorge Gonzalez.
Yes.
Counselor Ana Levy.
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
You're going to kill me. I'm going to vote no. Mr. Rodriguez, you wanted to say something. I'm going to give you every courtesy. I want to make sure you get all the information you need tonight.
Thank you.
Motion does not carry for a lack of a fifth, I believe. Is that correct, clerk?
I
That's
just
correct,
want
clerk?
to,
I'm asking the clerk if that's correct.
You have 4 votes in the affirmative for the motion to table. Without you, Council President, it does fail.
It fails. Mr. Rodriguez, as a courtesy to you.
I just want to be clear with with what we're doing next step. So what the council have decided, but we haven't take a vote, is that we're gonna open the process for more interviews. Is that correct? Is that require a vote from this body? I believe it does to make it legal.
The chair rules that it's not required because we already have a job posting that says until filled, and the job is not filled yet. So it's every right to go ahead and continue the job application. So by our very rule and by our very ordinance that are posting in January, it is still, and it remains open.
Yes, but based on where the item is at this committee, and we just said that we're moving forward at this level with 2 candidates. So now you're going back to the subcommittee meeting, to the subcommittee to be more interviews. So where the items is going to be? It's going to be at the subcommittee. Are we going to send it back to the subcommittee and then get more candidates and bring it back to here? Because the intention of tabling it was to keep it here. Otherwise, what are we going to do? I mean, I'm just trying to hope. I'm not trying to make it difficult.
No,
Parliamentary procedures. That's what I'm trying to.
So early on, we were trying to, we're trying to appease as many councils as possible. As difficult as that is when we have 7 of us, never mind 9. We're trying to take into consideration Councilor Levy's comments and Councilor Gonzalez's comments and your comments with respect to, moving things and all that stuff. And so your point is well taken. I think what we can do is, and I think there is past precedence on this, is that we have allowed items to remain tabled at this level, and perhaps we give it a letter of some sort, just to kind of make it a little bit cleaner. We can give it the letter, whatever the document number is, and give it a letter A or B, and then we can send that down, and then B can come back up and merge with the top one, and maybe that's what we do. So we can keep
So
it.
if that's the case, and then we need to split the item into A and B, that's one thing. And the second thing that we need to do is to, I believe that at the subcommittee level, at one point interviews or the subcommittee voted to stop interviews or new interviews to new candidates. So if that's the case, another vote need to take place to be able to open that process again. So probably we need clarification on that. I don't know.
So I don't believe, and if the chairman and the personnel director find that I'm incorrect on it, please correct me. I don't think that there was the end of the interviews. There was a batch, there was a cutoff that they had to review things. They had to put some sort of demarcation so that they can actually do it. But there was we're not accepting any more applicants. There was none of that. And hopefully I'm not misspeaking. And at this point, Mr. Abdu, perhaps I should just go right to you and say, what did your committee do with respect to that?
don't recall any kind of cutoff. Mr. Bonet and the process, I would assume there was a day that they snapped a line on reviewing resumes and began interviewing with the interview committee of the personnel committee. So I would defer to Mr. Bonet, but I'm sure he just snapped a line and that was it.
There was a couple of lines, couple of date lines, actually. We had the first one where we had the 11 names, where we sent the 11 names down to council, and the council voted to send to the personnel committee. And after we contacted those 11 individuals, I think maybe 6 or 7 of them withdrew or dropped. Left us with 5. And then we had a second date that we selected the rest of them, which was another 120 something applicants. And we backfilled and added a couple more just in case. So this will be the 3rd date, but there's no deadline to stop receiving applicants. The deadline for every process is whatever date I pick up the folder and review the applicants and call them for interviews, or send them down to the chairperson and the president and ask for interviews to be conducted.
My question to you, Mr. Burnett, through you, Council President, will be, at some point, did the subcommittee make a determination of stopping new interviews to candidates? Not interview, but new interview to new candidates.
No, nothing like that was discussed at the personnel committee.
Okay, so if the subcommittee go back and do more interviews without taking a proper vote at this level or any type of vote, that will be okay.
I don't know. I'm not a parliamentary procedure expert, so I wouldn't know. I defer that to the council president, I guess.
All right, I just want to make sure that in case that the fact that we have the item here, if any vote need to take place before we actually open the process again, because essentially that's what we're doing, opening the process again to new candidates. Whoever can show up tomorrow, it can be a new candidate that is impressive, or it's already there, and who knows, or we already have 2 candidates here, I don't know. But if that's the case, so we need to do at least splitting the item into A and B before we even table, and then figure it out whether or not we stop the interviewing, if we need a vote to start it up again or something.
The chair is going to make this following ruling, and then we're going to look for another motion to table. We are going to split this document to A and B. A is going to stay here at the full council level. B is going to be whatever is going to be at the personnel committee level. So if there's any new recommendations coming up, that'll be whatever this document is with the letter B affixed to it. At this point, and then at this point, I'm going to look for a motion to table this item, and then I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Rabb, did you want to make that motion again? Or not? You don't have to. Is there a motion on the table?
Second. I'm tired.
Mr. Gonzalez, I'm going to take that as an initial motion to table.
I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Is there a second?
I'll second Mr. Gonzalez's motion.
Motion second. No discussions on a motion to table. Clerk, please call the roll. It's going to be really helpful. The microphones was off mute.
Sorry.
Okay.
How's that? Councilor Anna Levy. On a motion to table.
Yes.
Councilor Jorge Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor David Abdu.
Yes.
Councilor Pavel Payano is noted. Councilor Maria de la Cruz, noted. Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez.
Yes.
Council Estela Reyes is noted. Council President LaPlante.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion made by Mr. Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Levy. Any discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Estela Reyes. Noted. Council Giovanni Rodriguez.
Yes.
Council Maria de la Cruz. Noted. Council Pavel Payano. Noted. Council Abdu.
Yes.
Council Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Council Jorge Gonzalez.
Yes.
And Council Ana Levy.
Yes.
Council President LaPlante.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're adjourned, everybody. Thanks to all the applicants.
Thank you.
We'll,
Good evening.
Thank
See
you
you
to
all.
all the applicants. They did a very great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time this evening.
Good night.
Good night.